Media. As consumers, we are bombarded by it at every turn, like the Incredible Hulk being bombarded by gamma rays. But what makes some media endure, while others are banished to the forgotten black hole of obscurity, never to be heard from again? Who or what decides this? Hetero life mates Steve and Yahel want to know, and they want to know now. This is Obscurity Now.
And what's up, Obscurians? It's time for another episode of Obscurity Now, the show that takes a look at weird and almost forgotten pieces of media. And we decide if they should be tossed into the void of obscurity or remembered for all of human history. My name is Steve. I'm one of your hosts. And with me, he's a podcaster, musician, YouTuber, plus drunken Santa. It's
me, Steve. How dare you open me before Christmas?
I feel like I opened you. Ugh, that sounds terrible. Like
what's going on, Steve?
this is what you opened
I thought
with.
you were I thought you were a robosexual.
Well, I am. But you're the one who asked why I haven't opened you yet, and I feel like I opened you like.
No. I said, how dare you open me before Christmas?
So. You should be in a box still?
Like I'm upset about it. How dare you open me? Because you see, Steve, the movie we're covering today is called Don't Open Till Christmas. And I said, how dare you open me? You know what? Let's just move along. How are you doing, Steve? I know you're a little under the weather, so we can let it slide.
Don't call attention to it. I mean, I didn't mean to call it. Are you like a present sexual or like a gift?
I'm just a gift, baby. But
the gift that keeps on taking.
I hope this illness of yours isn't the beginning of the end. You being over 6 feet tall, I'm concerned
we're
about.
Back on that.
Your impending doom.
Back on that again, are we? This is
Yeah.
the most British movie I think we've ever watched. Even more British than Dark Place.
I legitimately couldn't understand what they were saying at times. And I turned on the closed captions when I was watching it on YouTube for a little bit. And it was clear the closed captions also didn't know what was going on for some of the movie.
I'm glad that you mentioned YouTube. This movie is available on YouTube. However, it is edited for content. And I don't know, if you don't watch the uncut version of Don't Open Till Christmas, I mean, you're probably going to be sorely disappointed because there's not that much left to go on after that. Like, what do you think?
I would say that, I mean, the Don't Open Till Christmas isn't available for free anywhere currently. It's on a couple pay services I saw, but I don't think it's because there's like 4 minutes cut from YouTube, and it's basically just some nudity, like some boobs and like part of a kill is cut.
Right.
So, as someone who watched like a lot of it, I ended up because I forgot you had like sent me that link. I ended up watching all but like the last 15 minutes on YouTube, and then I was like, oh damn! So then I went back and I watched the missing parts because it's very obvious what's cut like in the YouTube. So then I went and I watched the cut parts in the file that you sent me, and it didn't add anything really. I mean, there's one kind of fun kill that's right. Cut on YouTube a little bit, but you're not missing anything really important if you watch the YouTube version.
But I mean, as we're about to talk about here, though, the like sort of the meandering plot and the slow pacing. If you like take the nudity and violence away from that, I think you're going to be probably pretty bored. But there are some other things, I don't know, maybe worth laughing at. I
mean, Steve, I hate to spoil things right up front, but I got to be honest with you. This was one of the. I mean, Surf Nazis Must Die is still like my least favorite thing we've ever covered.
I knew you were going to bring them up,
but this is up there, and it's not even so much because of the plot per se, which, like you said, it is meandering, it's clunky, but at least like there's a little bit of, at least for me, intrigue in the first third of the movie because you are kind of trying to figure out who is the killer.
Sure.
And I thought that they did a pretty good job of making several people seem like they could
Right.
be the killer. So I'll give them that. But the editing is so bad.
And we are about to find out why. I mean, do you already know why?
Kind of. I saw that like there were like three different directors attached
Yes.
At different various points. A bunch of stuff was like reshot, I guess.
All right, so you definitely did your research. Kudos to you, sir.
But there was only one editor, right?
I mean, it doesn't really list who. I mean, I guess the editor is on there somewhere, but they probably had to do a hack job because. All right, you know what? Let's dive into the Obscurity.
Yeah. Let's.
You ready?
Yeah. Well, let's. We have. Well, yeah. Let's go over our stuff. Are you
Okay. All right. Here we go.
I'd hate to disappoint anyone.
Here we go.
Welcome to your feature presentation.
Oh man, but before we get too deep into Don't Open Till Christmas, which some might be scared of such a movie where all these like mall Santas are constantly getting murdered, sometimes in creative ways, other times in the most boring, just sort of poke in the stomach with a knife, kind of uninspired ways. Like
Indeed.
it might fill them with a certain kind of fear. Do you have any kind of garment that someone could wear that would make them feel better about themselves while watching Don't Open Till Christmas?
Steve, as a matter of fact, I have a little worn out shirt.
Oh yeah?
From the 90s. It's been a little through the ringer, but I do have a No Fear shirt of the week here to inspire us.
Yes.
Get our courage XP up.
Oh, thank goodness, because I don't think I could get through this episode without it. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, it's the No Fear shirt of the week. Take it away.
Oh, sorry. I was looking at the chat. I'm just so petrified already. There are lessons to be learned from competition, but fear is not one of them. No fear.
I don't know. Let's see. I mean, this one I don't think is the worst one that you brought in, but it's
No. I did think it was funny that they basically are saying no fear twice on this shirt. One time it just took them like one really long sentence to do it. Creative KV's corners in the chat here, and since we're already going over the no fear shirt of the week, might as well do his user submitted shirt here. Making impulsive decisions with no fear of the consequences, like instantly tapping a live stream notification. That's what being a real man is about. No fear.
Man.
God, that one goes on the front and back.
Yeah, absolutely. I like updated for 2023, about to be 2024. Man, if we don't start our own line of No Fear shirts, but we've got to somehow. Since No Fear as a brand still exists in energy drink form, we have to I don't know, maybe it's
and the Christians already took Fear Not for their off-brand. I should start bringing those.
Oh yeah, that would be funny. Well, we have to be what's in the we could do no and then put those little German umlauts over the O.
No fur.
Maybe I don't know, something along those lines.
No four. I guess it'd be four eggs. It's like an ooh sound.
But yeah, we'll
work on it.
We'll workshop. But in the meantime, wait. All right, we got another one here. This time I'll read this one. Twerking while flossing. That's what real hygiene is all about. Be yourself. Embrace the cringe. No fear. Someone's had the week off to work on these.
Maybe the brand can be No Cringe because we're just unaware.
Yeah.
Of the cringe.
That's good. See, already these are billion-dollar ideas seeping in. And speaking of billion-dollar ideas, let's get back to the movie. Don't Open Till Christmas. It premiered in the United States December 21st, 1984, just in time for the holidays. It is 1 hour, 26 minutes, and rated R. And here is a synopsis. Somebody with very little Christmas spirit is killing anyone in a Santa suit one London holiday season, and Scotland Yard has to stop him before he makes his exploits an annual tradition. Jumping right into this, as Yahel briefly mentioned at the top of the show, this movie basically had 3 directors. It started out with director and sort of pseudo main star Edmund Purdom. And I'll let you get into his acting credits. But this is the only film that he ever directed, and I can see why. And the thing is that he didn't even finish it. He quit, which...
Yeah, it sounds like he started directing it and was like, "Ooh, this is not for me."
Yeah, I wonder if it's if his terrible direction is what sort of kicked off, because it's very uneven over the entire movie. Sometimes what happens is kind of interesting. Other times it's mostly boring, and it's all shot in wide to medium shots, and as you said, the editing is very minimal. And anyway, we'll get to it soon enough. But also part of his contract with doing this film was that he got to direct it. So yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Halfway through, he was like, "Ooh, maybe being a director is not for me," and sort of just dipped out. And that's when the writer-director Derek Ford took over as director. And he was and writer. He was also hired to rewrite some of the scenes. He was fired after 2 days. And then this guy named Ray Self, who I've always heard he has a very strong sense of self. He came in and took over. And here are some of the things that all these guys are exploitation, filmmakers, more or less. I mean, Derek Ford and Ray Self. I didn't really look too much into some of the stuff that Edmund Purdom acted in, because I want to hear about it straight from the mouth of one Yahel Velazquez in just a second. But Ray Self directed Can I Come Too? Emmanuel in Soho, and something called White Cargo, which can only be about one thing, and that is probably white slavery. But
yeah, and I don't want to know what Can I Come To is about.
Yeah, and Derek Ford, he wrote and directed a few films before this one. Also exploitation gems. I'm holding up quotation marks here. Keep It Up, Jack. The Casting Couch, and The Girl from Starship Venus. Yahel, I find it comforting that even back in the 70s, they were making casting couch videos. I know they're a favorite of yours.
Sure, Steve. By the way, I looked up Can I Come To? And yeah, it appears to be exactly what I thought it was about. The management and staff at Brixton Savoy Cinema prepared for the premiere of the new sex film, Love in the Undergrowth. That sounds disgusting. But yeah, so it seems like it's exactly what I assumed it would be about.
So yes,
thanks for bringing this fine director to our attention.
Hey, no problem. Yeah, we've got a real group of A-listers here working on Don't Open Till Christmas. So some of the writers here, it started off being written by Alan Birkinshaw. I guess he probably did the bulk of the writing. He previously wrote a few movies, Invaders of the Lost Gold, everyone's favorite, I'm sure, and Killer's Moon. And that's pretty much it. As you can see, I think this movie for a lot of people is oh, this is my chance to direct. This is my chance to write. And then they came out with the movie and they never got a chance again for the most part. And for good reason.
Yeah, there were a few people in this was their last film.
First and last. And that is pretty much going to do it for me. So tell us who are some of the thespians who brought this movie to life.
All right, I'm not really gonna go over. These are all like very old British actors for the most
Oh,
part.
everybody's dead who
Um,
was involved with this, so feel free to speak ill
I
of
think
them,
so.
everybody. Yes.
Well, it's just going to be a bunch of like movies that we've never heard of.
Sure.
So, Edmund Purdom, who you mentioned earlier, the director for A Couple Days, he is probably the most notable, it
Mhm.
looks like, of the cast as far as acting goes. Acted all the way up to 2001. Then he died 8 years later, presumably after finally seeing Don't Open Till Christmas. He died of embarrassment.
Yep.
Uh, anyways, yeah, he's been in a bunch of stuff. A lot of it is like not like non-English films,
Mhm.
and TV stuff. So it all looks pretty poorly rated on IMDb for the most part. So, maybe he was like the Samuel L. Jackson or Nicolas Cage of his day, where he just wouldn't say no, or maybe he couldn't say no. Maybe he had a tax bill
Right.
to pay.
There you go.
Anyways, he plays Chief Inspector Harris. He's kind of, I guess you could say, one of the main protagonists. I guess
Mhm.
it's hard. This is a weird movie.
Mhm.
We've got Alan Lake, who plays Giles Harrison. Spoiler alert, that ends up being his brother. Um,
Whoa. Wow. All right, we'll just skip the walkthrough then.
oh, it's not Giles, it's
Giles,
Giles.
yes,
I
yes.
forgot. Giles. Belinda Main plays Kate Briosky. Uh, that's like the other somewhat main. There's almost like three main
Yeah.
protagonists. Edmund, Chief Inspector Harris,
Mhm.
Kate Briosky, and then we have a character, Cliff Boyd, played by Gary, or maybe it was Jerry. I don't know how we're pronouncing G's here.
Mhm.
Jerry Sundquist. Um, Anyways, he stopped acting in 1992, so he at least did act for a while. He was in Blind Justice, which I thought we had talked about
Yeah, I
before,
feel
but I
like
don't
it's
remember that.
come up in other IMDb's, but yeah, we've never. I don't. I'm don't. You and I have never like picked it apart,
Yeah,
basically.
this guy though that plays Cliff. Did you get Dr. Rick Sanchez
Oh man,
vibes
I got
from him?
Dark Place vibes all over this. This movie actually feels like something that Garth Marenghi would have written and directed. I mean,
Right.
did you get those vibes as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Like there's random close-ups, unnecessary close-ups to people, like when it makes no sense. There's like these unnecessarily long establishing shots that have nothing to do with the film.
There are scenes that just don't need to be there. Like, I mean, it'll be in the walkthrough, like where someone will call someone and then like all these scenes end so quickly and then add nothing to the plot or the story.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Like there'll be like somebody is suddenly like trapped or they're in a building and someone's about to start chasing them, and then the next cut isn't how they got out the building or anything, which it's set up in a way that you see they have to go upstairs and like they're deep inside this building. The next shot is just them like mid run down the street.
Yeah.
And it's just like, what? How did this
Yeah,
happen?
yeah, I've got it all. I've got it all in the notes.
Yeah. Sorry,
It's
I
okay.
don't mean to step on your toes.
But no.
Then we've
You're
got
absolutely right. Yeah, Cliff, with his massive mullet, was totally Dr. Sanchez for sure.
and if we could just one thing about Cliff, and I know you're gonna go over it later, but I should say Smoke Monster is here in the chat. Thank you for
Welcome. Yes,
joining.
thank you for the last
Um,
live stream, probably of 2023.
Throughout the movie, Cliff is like, there's a few scenes where he's playing. Is it a piccolo?
Oh, it's a flute.
Is that what
It's
he's
a straight
playing?
up flute.
It's a flute. It's like there's a giant flute,
Mhm.
and he's like playing it in the streets. And apparently, it's what he does for money. And his girlfriend Kate is the one collecting the money that's donated for his playing. But Kate, we learn right away, is rich.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess we have to make our own little headcanon, basically, where, Kate cares more about Cliff than she does about Daddy's money, I guess. I don't know.
But Daddy's dead. He's the first one that gets
Right.
killed. So they say she's gonna get his money.
Yeah, really, I mean, it just adds to the many plot holes and question marks of the screenplay that is.
But what cracks
Yeah, go ahead.
so what cracks me up is though that Cliff is clearly supposed to be some kind of bad boy. He's got like a tight leather vest. He put he sticks his nose up at authority, all that stuff. But yet there's scenes where he's just like
Oh, yeah.
like jumping, playing his piccolo, like or flute, like on the street, and just like having a good old time.
This is my hypothesis, if you will. It's like, so they cast, I can't remember, whoever plays Cliff, and they're like, so you're going to be a bit of a bad boy. Do you play the guitar or drums, perhaps? No, mate, I play the flute. Good enough, you're in. Like, and that's it.
But the thing is, he clearly doesn't play. Like there's like the music will be all like do 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 do, and he might move like a finger, half a centimeter.
Right.
But anyway, the last person from the cast that I guess is like worth mentioning. Well, there's two. Mark Jones, who plays Detective Sergeant Powell. And then we've got Kelly Baker playing Sherry Graham, who's like a what do you call her? Like a peep show dancer,
girl.
I guess.
Yeah. What was her name again? I never even caught it in the movie.
Sherry Graham was the character.
Graham. Okay, I just referred to her as Peep Show Girl. Like, I thought they called her Experience Girl in the credits. Maybe that was someone else.
No, Experience Girl, I think, is somebody else.
Okay, well,
or who knows? I mean, it's not like this is a particularly well organized.
No, we have to be better than Don't Open Till Christmas, Yahel.
I want to be worse, but yeah, I think that's about all the cast I feel like mentioning.
Mm-hmm. That's all we really need to hear, buddy. But man, the name Alan Lake sounds just like Alan Wake. I don't know. It got me thinking.
Yeah, it does.
So our cold open, we open on a seedy alley at night. A dude in a Santa suit is just standing around. It looks like he's like stretching. Like he's about to go run a marathon or something. And then a woman shows up. They hug, and like very briefly, I don't know, like you can barely sort of make out what they say to each other. Like, oh, have you been waiting long or whatever? Then they go to the back seat of a nearby Volvo, which is sort of back further in the alley, and they just start getting it on. They couldn't drive the Volvo to like a nearby, apartment or hotel or flat, as they like to call it. No, they had to get it on right then and there in that alley because that's what these people are into. And that's okay. We're not here to shame.
It's 1984, Steve. It's a different time.
I'm sure there's still plenty of Volvo humping going on these days. But anyway, the camera, I actually kind of liked the camera work at the beginning here. The camera sort of slowly trucks in on the car. Then you hear heavy breathing. It's basically they just ripped off this sort of same camera movements from Halloween. In fact, this whole thing is basically a Halloween ripoff, only they mixed in Christmas instead, and they're all British, and it's not nearly as competent as anything John Carpenter has ever done. But anyway, so the man with his thick British accent, he tells whoever is like looking into the car, which you never see them because it's all POV from the camera. That's right. Here on Don't Open Till Christmas, you are the psycho at the beginning. And he goes, come on, get on out of here, clear off. And then the camera sort of pans or trucks around to the other side of the car to look in again. And then the guy, he's had enough. He jumps out of the car to confront the guy, only to get stabbed in the gut. And then the woman, rather than closing the door, I guess she couldn't because her man's body is kind of like blocking the door. She runs out of the other side of the car, directly into the corner of the alley, trapping herself, resulting in a knife to the gut from our killer. What were your thoughts on this cold open, Yahel?
It did not inspire a lot of confidence. The kill looked pretty bad. The blood looked pretty bad too. It definitely did not look like blood at all.
Mm-hmm. It's 70s blood. 70s blood.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's 1984.
Yeah, but
So
this was probably shot in the 70s. They said it like took 2 years for them to complete this. And you know how it
that
is.
would be like 19. All right, so early 80s.
Like,
Whatever. I mean, it's still pretty bad as far
no,
as
I mean,
Jake Blood
and I'm
goes.
not disagreeing, but what I'm just trying to say is, early 80s is still the 70s. It's not like the 80s yet. You get what I mean, right?
Yeah, yeah. Sure. By the way, Creative KV in the chat pointed out that in the poster, the gift box is like bleeding. He's like, why is it bleeding? I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess there's a small person in there.
There you go.
And he also said that they should hire you as the head of the British embassy. I think he's referring to your very accurate accent there, bloke.
Well, I thank you there, old chum.
But yeah, I wasn't too enthused about the opening. But because I feel like your first kill should be something maybe not your biggest kill, right? Because you want to build things up, but it should be something cool and attention grabbing if you're gonna have your horror movie have like a kill for the cold open. So it was a bit of a letdown.
I agree 100%. When we started just getting gut stabs, it gave me flashbacks to New Year's Evil. You remember that movie from last year? Where, just a lot of the kills were very uncreative. And I was just like, wow, this opening, it's not creative enough, not violent enough, nor sleazy enough. So
not Creative KV.
no, definitely not. And I thought we were going to be in for a snooze fest. I wouldn't say we received a snooze fest, more like a puzzle box of questions about who.
Like a J.J. Abrams style puzzle box. By the way, I do want to point out too in the chat here, Smoke Monster had said that everyone in this sounds like a chimney sweep. And at first I thought he meant you, but then I realized he must be like watching it or have watched it because they all sound like
like Dick Van Dyke
at times
from
it
Mary
sounds
Poppins.
In some scenes it sounds like they're trying to like out British one another. Like the accents just get like completely unintelligible.
Yeah, for sure. So then they roll the credits, and it's just again a ripoff of Halloween. Next to the credits is a creepy Santa figure that is on fire for some reason, almost like the jack-o'-lantern from Halloween. The figure melts and it reveals a knife around it. Now they have Jingle Bells, like a rendition of Jingle Bells playing behind the opening. Was it creepy or annoying?
Annoying. How about you?
I agree. I mean, they were trying to be creepy, but not that. Definitely annoying.
It actually took me like a little bit to even recognize that it was Jingle Bells.
Absolutely. So since this is the early 80s, of course we have to cut to a discotheque. For some reason, everyone is in costume, which I was like, is this supposed to take place during Halloween? But I guess it's a costume Christmas party. I can't say I've ever been to one of those, but hey, maybe that's how they do things, the old jolly UK. So everyone is in costume. Once again, the camera is sort of like, trucking through the audience. And then we end up in the dressing room where a guy is dressed up as Santa and he's practicing his Santa voice. A woman arrives and tells him he put on too much rouge. And he says, "Oh, I look like a gay old queen," or something like that, which they wanted us to know that Santa was looking a little on the effeminate side for some reason.
And then somebody else walks in and says that he looks like a gay old queen. So they really wanted to drive it home.
Well, you see, Yahel, there was a trend going on of gay Santa jokes back in the early 80s, and they were really trying to cash in on it.
I mean, was it like illegal to be gay in the UK or something? Because later there's a scene where I guess I'll wait till we get to it, but one of the characters is like, oh, well, I'll just say it now. Like, there's Cliff is outside with a woman that's dressed in a Santa costume, and two cops are like, I don't know, like 2 blocks away, but they see him, and when Cliff notices that the cops see them, Cliff yells something like, "Oh no, they'll think we're a couple of gays. Run!"
Right. Well, I
was just like,
mean, I
"What?"
know one of the like the big things from I guess the late 70s and early 80s is that they would send out undercover cops to try to catch people having public gay sex, basically, because I don't think you've never heard of that. Like that's like the entire premise of the movie Cruising, basically.
No, I mean, I've certainly heard of that. I just didn't think in 19. Well, you know what though? Like you said, this film it came out in '84, but it was probably filmed late '70s. Or, I mean, probably early '80s, like 1980 or something. But yeah, so yeah, Smoke Monster was saying that it was illegal there. So at the time, so yeah. Anyways, it was just weird.
Yeah, well, it's just an excuse to have Cliff run away. Anyway, but
Yeah, we'll get
yeah,
to it.
back to the film here. There is a hooded figure. Oh, yeah. So now we're back on the dance floor. Someone introduces Santa, and he comes out and says he has gifts for everyone. In the background, there was a hooded figure skulking behind Santa with a spear for some reason. Santa says he has gifts for everyone. He pulls out a party favor, the little one of those things, and blows on it. And somehow this spear gets launched at amazing speed, and it pierces the back of Santa's head and goes through his mouth. And the best part,
This should have been the opening.
yeah, oh, absolutely. Like I was like, whoa, well, all right, this is a little bit better than a little poke in the gut. But the thing that sort of took me aback about this scene is, how does the crowd react to a man getting a spear through the back of the skull here, Yahel?
The crowd goes mild,
Yeah,
I would
they,
say.
they don't care. Like a man was just murdered in front of them, and they're just standing there like this. Like some of them are like this, and others
Yeah.
are like, and yeah, and I think assuming that this was directed by Purdom or whatever, it's like he forgot to tell the extras how to react to someone being murdered.
I like to think that Purdom thinks of himself as being such a cool, suave character. He just told everybody, like they did one take and everybody freaked out. He's like, no, 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 baby. You got to play it cool, baby.
All right, that crowd was just too British to be bothered by someone being murdered. There you go.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, he told them to play it like their tea was stone cold.
Nice. And thus he started calling himself Stone Cold Purdom from there on out. All right, one lady is kind of sad, and one guy grabs. Cliff. He sees like a mask that's out of place, and he runs over and grabs it, but it just turns out it's being propped up by a broomstick, which I thought was hilarious. I'm like, how very Scooby Doo. It's like. How could that look like a person at all? But whatever, you just kind of have to go with it. And yeah, that is basically the third kill of the film. And then now we are at New Scotland Yard, which for those of you who aren't too hip on what goes on in the UK, that's a police station more or less. But so we go into an office at the New Scotland Yard. How would you describe the office here, Yahel?
Man, it was cheap.
Oh, 100%.
There's like a wall covered in just one big map, and that was about all the set dressing outside of like a lamp.
And the funny thing is, as the movie progresses, like the background changes. It goes from a map to like a chalkboard with just random names written on it. Did you notice that?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And then towards the end, doesn't it go back to the map?
It's very possible that it does, but they put like no effort into making this looking like a busy police station, and there's 3 cops in there. 2 of them are reading the same newspaper, which is funny to me. And then enter Inspector Harris, who I thought was going to be like our main protagonist, but I guess since the actor quit, I don't know, halfway through the film, the guy Powell ends up taking over. You'll see. Anyway, two of those other cops leave. Harris and Powell, they start chatting for a minute about, the Santa Claus murders or whatever. And then they just leave. And there's a lot of that going on throughout the movie is characters arrive, they have a very brief conversation, and then they leave. Do you have anything to add about that scene?
No. Although I do remember, don't they like the two investigators or cops or whatever? Don't they say at one point like, "Oh, put the paper away"? You know how the chief gets nervous when he sees his picture in the papers?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
It's like what? But then we never even really see the chief.
No, but
so why give him like some character traits?
Their chief is Wonton from Dark Place, basically. Because we never see Wonton, but man, he's breaking people's balls left and right.
Yeah. So in the chat, by the way, Creative KV had written this. Oi, what going over? Maybe you should read this, Steve, because I can't do the.
All right, I'm looking for it.
Two messages
down.
Two messages down from the second to last thing I wrote.
Okay, let's see. The plot.
It's right underneath something Smoke Monster.
Oh shoot! Why isn't the? All right, so I've got is Creative KB or Smoke Monster?
Creative KB.
I've got the plot is leaving me so gobsmacked, bloody rubbish.
It's before that.
Okay.
It's before that. It's like 8 messages before that. It starts with oi.
Okay, all right. Let me see that. Oh yeah, oi. We're going over to the YouTube to watch some Obscurity Haste in it. You use the translator online, no joke. Nice.
It's pretty good.
I'm digging it. Yeah, 100%. All right. So now basically Powell and Harris are at the house of Kate, who is the daughter of the Santa Claus. The second Santa Claus we saw murdered, the one who got the nightclub, got a spear to the back of the head. Let's see. They go inside. Basically they go to talk to her first because they realize that her dad is rich and she stands to inherit all of his money. So automatically they're assuming that this was a plot by her. So now we're in Kate's apartment. Cliff, her boyfriend, answers the door, his beautiful mullet blowing in the breeze. The detectives walk in the most awkwardly shot, like handheld you could possibly imagine. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
And also edited weird.
There's a few awkward handheld shots in this movie.
And all of that handheld was done just so Harris can go sit on the couch next to Kate and ask her some questions. And does Kate give you who was the the female from Dark Place? Doesn't she remind you of her?
Dr. I can't remember the character's name, but
Liz.
Liz. I guess a little bit in her delivery.
Oh yeah, because there's we'll get.
But then later in the movie, like at the beginning of the movie, they kind of do make her seem a little ditzy. But then by the end of the movie, she's like the one that like puts everything together.
Right. When you first saw her, did you think that she was like supposed to be strung out on drugs or something?
No, I didn't think that. Did you think that because she's got some bags under her eyes?
I mean, I guess they were trying to make it look like she was crying or whatever. But
I assumed that like it was supposed to be like because her father died. Sorry, Steve. When people's parents die, some people cry.
Oh well, I'm not even gonna joke about that. All right, okay. So Powell says they don't have a lot of clues, but Cliff says, "Well, what about that shrunken head I told you about, them there, Inspector?" And then Harris and Kate exchange a few more. Kate says, "My dad didn't have any enemies," and then he's like, Harris.
Any enemies?
Enemies. And then Harris is like, "Oh, we have to make sure that no one else ends up being a victim of the Santa killer." And then we get an abrupt cut right there. Like, this was, I would say, maybe one of the maybe the first sort of cut where I was like, what's going on with the editing here? Because they're just sitting on a couch and then bam, Like we never see them leave or anything. Well, what did you think?
Right. Yeah, it was very
Mm-hmm.
off-putting. They cut because this is when they cut to like the alley, right,
Yep,
at night.
yep.
Because and I think it was like implied that it was daytime when they were at the apartment. So it's just like not only are we suddenly somewhere else, which I mean that's okay, I guess, but there was just no transition to it, and suddenly it's like night, and it felt like something completely disconnected from everything you had seen so far in the
Yeah,
movie.
they could at least have done maybe they couldn't afford like a crossfade to indicate the passage of time, but whatever. Maybe they just
By the way,
go over.
in the chat, Creative KV mentioned that you sound like the narrator for a Thomas the Tank Engine knockoff direct to VHS
Thank you.
movie.
That's what this movie deserves. Yes, as Yahel said, we hard cut to another seedy alley at night. And again, there's a guy in a Santa suit, and for some reason, he's keeping warm by a grill.
He's like a homeless
Yeah, I
Santa.
guess. I mean, this movie is really nothing but like random guys in Santa suits being attacked. So if you don't
Yeah.
like that, you're going to hate this movie. You still might hate it, but we'll see. And so out of nowhere, I guess the killer just shows up, strangles him with this, like, I don't know, it's like a massive zip tie, basically. And not only does he strangle him, he forces his head into the grill. And then they pull back.
You hear like the sizzling, like fajitas being brought to your table at
Yeah,
Chili's.
well said. Yeah.
And then they played the My Baby Back Ribs song. Very awkward.
Oh man, that takes me back. That should be a shirt. Um, and you actually get to see sort of the killer's like weird plastic mask, which briefly in this scene, which again gave me New Year's Evil kind of vibes. I don't think it's the exact same mask, but very similar if I remember correctly.
Mhm.
And anyway, the killer, he just casually puts fake Santa here back onto the grill, and then he magically bursts into flames. What were your thoughts on this
Yeah.
murder?
This is like the one of the murders where you told me, oh, this is the murder that you were like, oh, you got to watch
Uncut,
the
yeah.
real version, the uncensored version too. It's like it ends in a funny way, and yeah, it is kind of funny just because like the guy's just like laying now face first on the grill after the killer leaves, and you expect that it's gonna hang there for like a couple seconds and then cut to the next scene, but then suddenly it's there too long, and then suddenly
Bursts into flames. Yeah, very,
yeah, like his whole
very
body.
dark place for sure. So then we get a guy riding a motorcycle with a gift strapped to the back, like through a neighborhood. I mean, stuff like this, like showing the guy delivering the gift. It's like this is what you spent your budget on. Like we didn't need to see the motorcycle
Right.
delivery guy. But anyway, it gets delivered to the inspector, but it says don't open till Christmas. And Inspector Harris, I guess he's all about following the rules, even though his like housekeeper wanted to open it. He's like, no, I'm a proper British man. I won't open it. And so now we're back at the police station again, and that's how abruptly the scenes end. They're just like that quick, and they've, even though this one actually did technically add to the sort of plot or story, if you will, that's like all that happened there.
But by the way, Steve, I don't know if this is on purpose or not, but I noticed in the Obscuritron, it's just been showing the No Fear shirt this
Oh,
whole
thank
time.
you for
So it looks like we're talking about the No Fear shirt for like the last 30 minutes, like a bunch of
Thank you for
psychopaths.
bringing that to my attention. There we go. There's Caroline Munro. Probably the best thing about this movie. All right, moving on. So where were we? All right. All right. So now we're back at the police station, and we get another very boringly shot scene of Inspector Harris and Inspector Powell discussing the case. It is literally just one giant wide shot, or two shot, if you will, and it never cuts, and it's super boring. So moving on. Now we're back with Cliff and Kate. Cliff is at first I thought he was practicing his flute, but I mean the guy's a pro, so he doesn't even need to practice.
Yeah, he's a pro.
Yeah. Again, very boringly shot, basically one wide shot, and this is where, and then cut to Powell. He gets a call from reporter Giles. This is our first time seeing this character Giles out of nowhere. He asks him if he'd like to solve this case on his own. He doesn't want Harris involved for some unknown reason, which Yahel already spoiled, but we'll get to it. And but of course Powell is like, he basically Britishes him away, more or less. I don't think there's anything more to add about that one. And now we're back into our favorite setting in this movie, and that is a alley at night. And there is another fake Santa, and he's just hanging out, and he just gets shot in the mouth by the killer. And this is when I started to get frustrated because I was like, how about some...
Oh, this?
Right. Well, I guess this more frustrated me as like a horror movie fan. I was like, how about some consistency here? It's like you can't use like edged weapons and then switch to a gun. It's like, make up your mind there, slashy.
Yeah, like he doesn't have like a signature killing style.
Right. But then he's always flashing around this straight razor. It's like, why not just stick with that? Like, but that probably would have been more boring. I mean, why not use the spear again? But you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So now reporter Giles just randomly runs into Kate on the street, and they have a brief exchange. And this is when Kate totally reminded me of Liz, because she goes, I have to go now. Did you pick up on that?
Yeah.
And then now we're with Harris. He walks the streets of London at night. Cliff plays his flute in the subway station as Kate holds the hat. That is really sad that is her job. Like, can't Cliff just put the hat on the ground? Like, but whatever. Kate, she loves them bad boys, I guess.
I guess so. And, in the chat, Smoke Monster was saying that his kill style should be like Christmas themed. And I totally agree. Like, I'm sure it's been done before, but maybe some kind of candy cane related weapon or, anything.
I mean, it just would have taken like maybe more than just one like sort of draft of the screenplay to come up with that, So yeah, basically they have a little chat, and then Cliff's friend Jerry shows up out of nowhere, and basically they go to a bar. Really, like, there's really no reason for them.
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah, like Jerry introduces himself. He says to Kate, "Oh, you look familiar. Did I see you on TV recently?" And she walks off upset. And then Cliff is like, "Hey, man, yeah, she was on TV talking about her dad's murder." And Jerry's like, fuck, let's go have a drink.
Right.
Then they end up at this bar, and this is the most difficult to understand conversation. I would love to tell you about specifics between Jerry and Cliff's conversation, but it just kind of like those kind of
right. Well, what we can glean from what happens afterwards is basically Jerry tells Cliff that he's in a bind, that he needs an additional model for some kind of shoot. So Cliff, since he's such a great boyfriend, he goes ahead and volunteers Kate to do it. And this is this top of sleaze here. It's never mind that her dad just died. I'm sure, my girlfriend would love to be in your weird erotic topless photo shoot, despite the fact that her dad,
right,
as we're about to see. So
and he tells her, "Oh, it's an easy 50."
Right.
And it's she's rich.
Yeah, they just can't seem.
So Cliff is an idiot. He's a flautist. I don't know what
flautist,
the proper
you got it. Yeah,
term is.
Flautist.
Flautist sexual. And also a bad boy. Like this guy is all over the but they also kind of imply that he genuinely cares about
Hmm.
Kate. His character is so all over the
No,
place.
no, no, no.
It's
You got
kind
it
of
all wrong,
insane.
you hell. It's the 80s, so boys will be boys. Am I right? You're just allowed to be a big old
Right,
misogynist, and it's
right.
okay. Yeah.
That's right. But yeah, so Kate leaves, and then Cliff and the other girl end up like
Wait, we're not
outside
we're
where
not
like the
there yet.
girls.
Almost. All right. So
Oh, I'm
so
sorry.
they
I'm sorry.
abruptly cut from the bar to
Oh, I'm
yeah,
sorry.
yeah,
I'm
no
sorry.
problem. Jerry taking pictures of this topless woman in a cape wearing like fetish gear basically. Showing off the rack. I mean, whatever. It's an 80s slasher movie. What do you want? And then like I mean, and it's like the longest like shoot. Like they knew like they were like, "Oh, this is all we got. All we got is like an attractive topless woman. The rest of the movie is trash, so we might as well make the most of it." So then Cliff and Kate finally walk in, and that's when sort of Cliff basically reveals that he volunteered Kate to be a part of this, very, I don't know, this, I guess it's modeling fetish wear, more or less. And
Yeah, to do like a photo shoot with the other
right.
girl. So like they do so for them to do one together. And that's when he says, "Oh, come on, Kate, it's an easy 50."
Yeah.
And it's like, again, Kate is
Right,
rich.
right. And even though Kate is outraged, she hasn't left yet. It's not until Jerry brings out a Santa suit. And then she finally gets angry and storms out. Um, and and then what I love here is that Cliff, he's at a emotional crossroads, or maybe a moral crossroads. He's like, should I go and chase after me bird, or should I stay here and take some naked pictures? And and the answer for Cliff was to take the model outside in the Santa suit, although she's not wearing anything underneath, more or less, and was it even clear where they were going or what they were going to do?
Yeah, because Jerry and Cliff talked about who was gonna do what for the shoot, and Cliff said that he wanted to do the street
Mm.
pictures. But Smoke Monster in the chat said, "How did you find this movie?" With the emoji. And Smoke, I don't know. Steve brought this to my attention.
I don't know. Every year I go, oh, I type into Google Christmas horror movies, and this one popped up.
I assumed that RoboCop was going to appear at some point, based on Steve's recent
That's that's
actions.
all I like now
However,
is RoboCop. Yeah,
I would have been very happy if RoboCop had shown
me
up.
too. If he
Actually,
showed up at the end.
oh, I know you would have been happy.
All right. So as previously mused by Yahel. All right. So Cliff and Cheryl, the model, are walking outside, and for some reason.
This is when the cops see the cops seeing
Right,
them.
but before the cops, though, I think Cheryl is like trying to come on to him or stuff or something. There's some more.
A little
Yeah,
bit, a little bit.
a
Yeah,
little
she's
bit.
like hitting on
She's
him.
like showing off her rack some even more for some reason, and then the cops show up. So Cliff, being the man of valor that he is, just freaks out and runs away. So now they can't get back into the door.
After saying, "Hey, we better go," they're gonna think we're a couple of gays.
Yes,
Even though if the cops showed up, they would see that it's a woman.
it's the
I mean,
lamest excuse.
and if they had any doubts, she's naked
Right.
underneath, so it would be very quickly confirmed. But I guess the point of this though is to make Cliff run away,
Mhm.
so that when the killer pops up in the next cut, when Cheryl's also trying to run away because they split, to make us think, oh, maybe Cliff is the killer and he just ran away to put on his mask.
Right, right, exactly. But I think the bigger question. Oh well, yeah. Let me get to the end of the scene and then I'll ask. So yeah, basically, Cheryl runs straight into our killer, and we get a big shot of his plastic face mask or whatever. You can pretty much clearly see that it's Giles underneath because nobody else.
At this time it was very,
Yeah, nobody else has those.
because Giles
wacky-
has a giant space between his two front teeth and he smiles.
Yeah, and some pretty creepy looking eyes. I mean, I would say if you were gonna cast a psycho killer. This whoever the guy who's playing Giles is a pretty safe bet. So you're waiting on old the slasher here, Giles, to waste her. He like brings out his straight razor and of course runs it up and down her like almost naked body. And then, whoa, freak out. He decides not to kill her. And then he just leaves. And then she goes and leans against a wall. And those cops from before, they come up and they help her. And then another, anything else to add about that scene?
Oh, no. Thankfully they realized that, she's not in a gay male relationship, and they help her.
What I love here is like, all right, I could just see the screenwriters, or maybe they're having like their one production meeting or whatever. It's like, oi, we need to come up with a reason to get our boy here, Cliff, to run away. It's like, I don't run away from nothing. I'm British. It's like, oh yeah? What about being gay? Oh, that's it. Let's use it. And that's how they came up with that scene. Yeah. True story. All right, so hard cut to Powell and Harris showing up at someone else's apartment, and it turns out that it's Cheryl's place. I mean, she's like not really dressed to meet visitors, and she's in bed. But they just go ahead and walk on in because I guess that's just what British cops do. And they basically, the big question here is, did you see his face? Did you see that? Blah, blah, blah. And the running gag or theme, if you will, is that, oh, it's his eyes. They kind of smiled behind the mask. Like,
what does that even mean? What
yeah, right?
does that even mean?
Someone thought he was being clever with his like word choices there.
And this is not she's not the first person, or excuse me, she's not the last person that will say this.
Mm-hmm. And the exact wording. Yeah. So cut to, we got another Santa here. This one is going to a peep show. And this is so crazy. All right. So obviously you and I will assume you've never been to a peep show like that ever, have you?
No.
Yeah, I think those were probably long gone by the time the 90s like rolled around. And anyway, I had no idea that, much like when people go to visit like prisoners in the in prison, you have to pick up the call or the phone to talk between the plexiglass. They have that here too. There's a woman behind plexiglass, and at first she's listening to her Walkman, and the Santa, he's like banging on the glass, and then she finally sees him, and they pick up the phone to like talk to one another. It's the weirdest thing ever. I'm asking you listeners, if you lived in the UK in the early 80s and you attended several peep shows, or you know what, even if you're in the US, did you have the ability to talk to the peep show girl via phone through the plexiglass? We want to know here at Obscurity Now.
Yes, to all of our listeners in their mid-60s that would have been old enough and there at the time.
Yeah.
Yes, please let us know.
Yes, please. So anyway, they start talking to each other, and like it's weird.
Creative KV, sorry, in the chat, Creative KV said that was Sony product placement, the Walkman.
I was also, all right, I'm glad he brought that up. Speaking of product placement, how distracting is the peep show girl's like t-shirt that she
shirt?
Yeah, it's like advertising something. It's like almost like some local automotive place or something like that.
Yeah, it was like something deconstruction, like TD's deconstruction.
Yeah, it's really, really weird. And it's like
it must have been like a sponsor.
Right. And not to be like a pervy or anything, but like if you're like a peep show girl, like why are you wearing, all this loose clothing to cover up your figure? Like, it just doesn't really make any sense.
Well, yeah. Well, I guess the idea is, because like she says, you got to pay X amount for me to take this off. But yeah, you would think she'd wear something a little more form-fitting. But
yeah,
it's a different time, baby.
It's the 80s. Boys will be boys and peep show girls will be peep show girls.
I guess so.
There's all right, so they start talking, and at one point she's like, "Do you want to see me dance?" And like the dance that she does is absolutely terrible. Like it's
Yeah, she's like, because she says it like, my real passion is dancing, not like as in, I'm a stripper. And then she's like, do you want to see? And she's like, okay. And she does a terrible dance.
mm-hmm.
Uh, and then the guy's like, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. And they have a really weird conversation. Like the Santa, as one would assume, he's like, I live with my mother. And the Peep Show girl is like, oh, me too. And then she then proceeds to say that her mom owns the Peep Show and she's filling in for her tonight. But like,
yeah,
I'm like, this sounds like some bad limerick that they would tell.
I think it's supposed to be like funny or something, like a funny scene, but
I guess. Like
it just comes off being like, what?
It's too late in the game to try comedy here, guys. Come on now, get it together. So anyway, we are back at Kate's apartment. Harris questions Cliff and Kate. Cliff's hand is bandaged, and then Harris accuses Cliff and then gives Kate his card and says that he's like available to help her at any time. Now we're back at the very dull police office. Giles is in there, and Giles and Powell talk. Giles tells Powell to keep an eye on Harris, that you can't trust him. Then he just leaves. Then Powell calls and tells some cops to keep an eye on Harris, which it's so weird, like that they're trying to sow doubt in the cops. Like, you have to go through, and that his own partner is sort of like questioning it. Like one would think that you would actually have to like go through quite a few background checks in order to be a cop in the UK,
right?
Don't you think?
You would think so. And at this point, like they've been working together,
Yeah.
you think like he would know him, and yeah, it's definitely a little weird.
Yeah, this feels like a rewrite. Like later on, that Mr. I don't even remember the guy's name. He came in and I screwed everything up. Anyway, so now we're in a church. And Powell is spying on Harris. And then later, a drunk Santa stumbles out of a pub. Then he decides to ride a bike. Have you ever tried riding a bike while drunk, Yahel?
No, I can't say that I have.
Yeah,
Have you?
No, definitely not. I try to do as little as possible when I'm drinking, aside from actually drinking.
I did try to go for a run one time while I was drunk.
Oh, how'd that work out?
I fell.
As the Santa here sort of ends up doing. So he gets on his bike, and there's some local punks nearby, and they chase him for what first seems to be for no real reason, but whatever. It's the 80s. You can justify that the punks just want to, cause trouble. He falls off his bike, and this gang of like 5 or 6 punks, they steal his bike. Like, that's all they wanted? Like, I don't know. Stupid. So then Santa, he's still alive here. And it's all right. All this is very darkly shot and hard to just sort of process. He's shimmying down what looks like a brick wall that's like falling apart. That looks like it was a victim of a earthquake or something.
Mm-hmm.
And ends up in like some weird tunnel, avoids some mad dogs, and ends up in this wax museum of torture. Like,
yeah, okay, so I was so confused as to where he was at.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm like, is this like a haunted house?
That's what I thought it was at first. Mm-hmm.
And I will say, like, some of the props and stuff in there look pretty cool.
I'm pretty certain, I guess if I was a real researcher and historian, I would have looked it up, but I hear they've got a lot of like sort of attractions like that in the UK of like, wax museums and torture places and stuff like that. Pretty sure it was a real place.
Okay.
I mean, do you really see them spending the budget to like build something like that?
Oh, no. I mean, I know that this is definitely not something that they built. I was just
Yeah.
like surprised by how, and I'm sure the lighting helps, but like, like some of those things like look pretty gruesome and
Yeah.
cool. Like this was probably my favorite part. They spent way too much time in here.
Yeah,
with him,
Yeah, that Santa was wandering around there for what felt like ages. But yeah, they wanted
So,
to,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit of a catch-22 because it's like it's by far the coolest scene in the movie, but it's also like, fuck, this is dragging this movie out even longer.
And here is where the big sort of question or plot hole comes into play. It's like you think about the random series events that brought this, drunk Santa down to this this torture place, this wax museum, and who just happens to be waiting down there but the killer? Like he must have
and
like
he's got like weapons set up.
his like Santa sense must tingle whenever there's a drunken Santa around, like
I guess
Spider-Man.
so. I guess so.
So yeah, he runs around for a while. The killer keeps trying to throw tools at him, like sharp tools, but he keeps missing. And I keep waiting for one to finally make contact and be like, "Ooh, that was a cool kill." But no, in the end, he gets stabbed in the gut, like totally lame, which is too bad because I agree with you. That whole sort of set piece or set was really cool. And then to just get stabbed in the gut at the end, snore, buddy, snore.
Yeah, very lame.
So we're back at Kate's apartment, and Cliff starts to suspect Inspector Harris. And then we're at Powell's office. Harris enters and says this may be my last case because he was getting chewed out by Wonton or the chief or whatever. Then Harris sits and across from Powell to talk to him. And did you notice that it looked like he was sitting in a completely different room?
Yeah.
That was hilarious. Because they each had their own shot, and one of them looked like he was in the like sort of boring, dingy police office that we've seen before. But Harris looks like he's sitting in some, I don't know, sort of newer, upgraded.
Yeah, and the lighting is completely different.
So they talk about some stuff, nothing too great, and now we're at a carnival or fair. I have to say at this point, the pace and the plot has like totally dragged, and I think I started checking the clock to see if this thing was going to be done anytime soon. But I don't know, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I wanted it to end. But no, there was quite a bit more to go.
Yes, unfortunately. So Harris walks around the fair. Of course, there are Santas there giving presents to kids. There are two Santas there. This time we get at least there's some little diversity with these Santas, I'll say. One of them, for some reason, the killer, because of course he has to kill somebody different every time, unless it's the old knife to the gut. He's got like the James Bond knife on his shoe.
Boot.
Yeah.
Like the toe of this boot, like a knife just like comes out of it.
Right, or you can call it the Van Damme boot from Cyborg. And yeah, he just kicks out the knife and kicks one of the Santas in the guts and then punches him with like brass knuckles or something.
Yeah, it was weird. It was like a mace, but for your hand.
Yeah.
Like it was just like a bunch of spikes, like a big spiky glove. And he like impales him in the neck with it, I think. By the way, Creative KV in the chat wrote, I'm checking the clock right now.
Great. That means we're doing our job. But the other Santa, he gets a knife through the eyeball, which gives him an excuse to do a little bit of eyeball makeup. Like, I thought these kills were actually pretty decent. I mean, at least it wasn't a knife to the gut.
At least better.
And now we're at like a flea market, and Cliff is playing his flute because like a bad boy. And of course, Kate is there. Harris happens to be there. I don't even really think they talk about anything significant. And we hard cut to the police station. Powell interviews the Peep Show woman. And Peep Show woman, she basically says that, I saw his face. And Powell was like, really? He's like, oh yeah, but it was in a mask. And this is when she delivers the exact same lines as the other lady and says that it looked like his eyes, it looked like he was smiling behind the mask, which this weird word choices like right there. But anyway, Powell says, I'm going to give you a squad car to give you a ride home. It might not be safe. But of course, Peep Show girl, she's a strong, independent woman who lives by her own rules, and she just goes ahead and takes a little walk. Kate then calls Harris, but he isn't there, and his housekeeper,
It's like secretary or housekeeper,
says that he's visiting Parklands, which we later learn that Parklands is an insane asylum. So now we're supposed to suspect Harris of being the killer. Peep Show Girl returns to work because, she's just that dedicated of a dancer, I guess.
She doesn't want to let her mom down.
Yes, of course. And so the killer shows up. This time he's not wearing his mask. And this, I thought, was kind of a little surprising, but also funny. He just breaks through the plexiglass of the Peep Show.
But Steve, how does he break through it?
With his hands.
Does he punch it?
No, like this.
Yeah, he just fingers straight out, and the plexiglass explodes as soon as his fingers touch it.
A hilarious image. If you can, if you watch this movie, it might be worth it for this.
I will say in the chat, Sasquatch in Time is here. Thank you for joining. He made a good point about why Kate may be into him.
Okay.
Into Cliff. Flute boys know how to pucker up and put their fingers in the correct holes of flutes and only flutes.
No fear. No fear. That's a good point. And it might shed a little bit of light on this terrible script. So basically, the slasher grabs her by the hair. Wait, did that happen yet? No, there's an awkward foot chase, basically, where...
Yeah, that goes on way too long. The camera's like following them, running forever.
Yeah, and mostly following their feet, a la Quentin Tarantino style. And then he ends up catching her and drags her by the hair to a nearby...
The killer.
Yes, the killer catches her, drags her by... I guess his hideout just happens to be nearby because there's a bed in there, and he chains her up, but he leaves her there and doesn't kill her. Now we're back at Scotland Yard. Powell calls Harris. Harris says he's off the case. Like, a lot of what happens over the phone in this movie, which is super boring. Then Cliff gets brought in. He says he's being held there because Powell suspects him of being the killer, even though it doesn't really make any sense at all. And then we hard cut to yet another drunk Santa, Yahel, wandering around a theater this time. So, of course, the killer, his Santa sense starts tingling, so he shows up.
Naturally.
And the music is actually decent here before the disco band starts playing. It's your typical 80s synth that, you would hear in maybe like Halloween or something like that. But it's only here, and it's like not really used in any other of the movie for some reason. I don't know. Did the music stand out to you at all?
Yeah. It was decidedly better than a lot of the other music. And then, like you said, like there's a lady that and her band that puts on like a disco-ish performance. And then like the song goes on for like 2 minutes before part of the stage starts to come. Like, there's like a trapdoor. I don't know what's supposed to actually come up. But what does come up is the Santa that you mentioned got the axe to the face. Mm-hmm. And, of course, the singer screams and freaks out seeing this.
Right. But just not... I don't know. This might be a little Easter egg to somebody. The lady singing is Caroline Munro, who is pretty big in the exploitation community, if you will. She's best known as the Bond girl in The Spy Who Loved Me. But, yeah, basically... She's only in this movie to sing this song, and that's it, and to put her name on the marquee, basically.
Right. But if you're not a pervert, you won't know who this is. So.
You could be a James Bond fan.
I wasn't calling you a pervert. I was just saying, Steve, don't get defensive. There's no need to get defensive about this. I don't know.
Just say you could be a James Bond fan. That's all. But yeah.
Oh, sure. If you're a James Bond fan that's into like the obscure women that appeared in the James Bond films from the 60s or whatever, sure.
All right. Moving on. So now we're at Kate's.
Sorry, Steve.
And
didn't mean to out you like that.
Hey, Caroline Munro is a beautiful woman. I'll just say that. All right. So Kate, we're back at Kate's. Kate talks with Pal. Kate says Harris doesn't exist, which what the hell is going on here? How could
Yeah, she's like because she called the asylum to look for him, and the asylum's like, oh yeah, no one's come to visit. I guess I checked the visitor log. No one's come to visit by that name. So Kate's like telling then Inspector Powell, oh, it's like he doesn't exist.
Yeah. Why doesn't you just get on
And Inspector
Google?
Powell's like, and basically Inspector Powell's like, I thought you asked me to come here because you had important information. Don't fucking bother me for this shit again.
Right. Yeah, he just, because she's a woman, she just gets swept aside, and it's like, please, the men here are talking, Kate.
Right. He's unwilling to listen to her because she does like, her dialogue's not great, but she does have like a hypothesis that she's starting to formulate.
Right, for sure.
But he's not having it.
No, definitely not at all. So Powell doesn't believe her. Kate then goes herself to Parkland Asylum, and then Kate calls Scotland Yard. And now we're at a department store. Oh, man, this movie just lasts forever.
It's only like an hour and 26 minutes.
But man, does it drag.
There's just so many cuts to random things. And this is possibly like one of the more random scenes where because before we see the mall Santa, we just see like a guy walking around and buying presents or whatever, and he sees like an attractive woman pass him, and he like ogles her very awkwardly, and they hang on that shot.
Of course.
And then he's like, and then he just starts walking away. The camera follows him, and then we do a hard cut to a mall Santa, like going to the bathroom. So that whole thing with that guy checking out that lady was unnecessary.
Right. I mean, unnecessary is a great way to describe this movie.
However, Steve, maybe that woman walking by was also some kind of, exploitation film star. I don't know. Do you know her name?
Hey, look, Caroline Munro was a big star.
Asking,
no, I don't.
Okay, because maybe they just wanted to put her name in the thing. I don't know.
You bastards.
I really was just asking because I hadn't thought about it until you mentioned that they had singing.
No. I have no idea who that lady was. All right.
He knows.
The mall Santa goes into the men's room to urinate. So, of course, our killer's Santa sense starts tingling. But it doesn't matter because somehow he already knew the Santa was going to go in there and take a pee break because he's lurking back in the stalls.
Yeah.
Comes out, takes...
Wait a minute. Before you describe the kill, Steve, you forgot the most horrific thing in this entire movie. As what happens, what's the first thing that the Santa does when he walks into the bathroom?
Is he singing or something?
No. He walks in... He goes, I guess his face is sweaty, so he goes to like dry it off with a towel that's like hanging off this it's like a community towel.
Yeah.
I guess I think I have heard of that. That used to be like a thing. But it's just like this towel that everybody uses, the same towel to dry off their hands, wipe their face, whatever. And he just puts his whole face in it.
Yeah, if you watch old movies, you'll see that towel a lot. It's
Now go ahead and describe this kill because I maybe this should have started the movie.
Yeah. So the mall Santa, he's basically urinating in one of the urinals as you do. So of course the killer shows up, takes out his straight razor and hacks off his penis.
His candy cane, if you will.
Yes, his Santa's candy cane. And basically blood just squirts everywhere. You don't actually see. Yeah,
it's like squirting into because they did like a shot when he was peeing of like the pee going into the urinal. Obviously, you don't see his candy cane, but then they do the same shot, same camera angle, but now it's blood squirting. And right. I'll give him credit. Okay, that was pretty good.
Yeah, apparently this scene was edited out of the original UK cut. Anyway, so they then show a cleaning lady shows up and finds Santa, and he's like pretty much angled like straight to the camera.
Yeah,
But
it's in the
you know,
Obscuritron. It's come up a few times, like the Bloody
right.
Santa and the bathroom.
But it's not nearly as gorific as you might think it would be. And but of course, the weird thing here is, since nobody knows how to direct human beings in this movie, blood sausage. Oh, you bastard!
British blood sausage. Thanks, Smoke Monster.
That's
Let me
good.
block him.
Jeez. Yeah, blocked. So anyway, the cleaning lady finds the body, and you know, in any other horror movie, she would scream horribly, but since this is Don't Open Till Christmas, there's no scream because she's just too British to scream, I guess.
Well, this is a lady that's like lived through World War One and Two.
Yeah.
So, based on her age, when she walks in, so this ain't nothing, governor.
Yeah. Right. So also she has no choice but to eat British food, so it does nothing for her.
Why are we trying to upset our two British audience listeners?
I feel like you started this the last time when we were going over that RoboCop comic, and the two guys who wrote and drew it were British. You laid into the Brits pretty hard in that episode. So
I don't even remember.
I'll just follow suit. But
That's
it's
how
all
little
in
they
good
mean to
fun.
me. I already forgot about it.
We're taking a piss, right? We're taking a piss. We love the Brits. We love them. And anyone who listens to this show. All right, then. So Kate visits Harris at his apartment. They then go out to eat. And it's really... this really sent me down a rabbit hole here. I was like, is Harris going to end up trying to like hit on her or something? And... but none of that, of course, happens because it's all very surface level and leads to hardly anywhere. Cliff tries to follow them into the restaurant, but it's too nice for the way he's dressed, so they won't let him in. And I don't even remember what they really talk about. I don't think it was that important.
Yeah, it is important, actually, Steven.
Okay,
because Kate tells Harris, hey, I've told you my name 2 times already, and you haven't told me yours. Because she's already figured out that Harris's real name is Harrison, and that he's Giles' brother.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, thank you for adding that. And then Giles just randomly shows up at Kate's, and and that's when
Kate reveals all this, that she's figured out that he is the killer, that and she's like trying to convince him that like he doesn't have to be like this. She's like, your brother loves you. He comes to visit you. I saw the logs, blah, blah, blah.
Giles is Harris's brother. Harris's real name is Harrison. Powell tries to call Kate, and she tries to answer the phone. But Giles, how does he kill her?
Stabs her. Well, first, he grabs like tinsel and chokes her with it.
Right.
Weak ass tinsel. Maybe it was stronger back in the 80s. I don't know. Back when they let us put asbestos in it before everybody got weak.
There was lead in that tinsel back then.
Anyway, so and then like you said, he stabs her in the stomach. But my favorite part is that Inspector Giles is listening to all this, hears her blood-curdling scream, and he says to somebody else that's in the police station with him, I think Kate's in trouble.
Yeah. I'll get a mop.
with pretty much that amount of emotion, he's just like, oh, well, I think Kate's in trouble.
How British. Stiff upper lip there, pal. Yeah. So, oh man, this next scene. Okay, so our lead heroine is now dead. So how much more movie could there be? Stay tuned, listener. We're going to find out. So this next scene cracked me up.
Me too.
Powell arrives, okay? Kate's dead body. Well, you can clearly see her breathing. I mean, you saw her breathing, right?
Yeah. They should have really killed her, I guess, huh?
I'm not saying that, but the problem is that this is all shot in one boring, wide shot take.
Right. So she can't hold her breath like for like the 2 minutes that this takes.
Right. And so Powell enters, like no other officers are like around, and he goes and makes a phone call to someone, like literally sitting over her dead body. Like, it's the most bizarre looking thing you
He
could
like calls the
possibly imagine.
station or something.
Yeah, it's so stupid. And
I think he tells them to like the station to go to Harris or check on Harris or something, and
Right.
and they're like, oh no, he's been home all night, and he's like, what?
he was following up because earlier in the film, I can't believe there's actually some setup and callbacks in this thing. He, after Giles confronted him, he told someone at Scotland Yard to keep an eye on Harris. And so anyway, Powell follows Giles to like some sort of weird classic car lot. And there's basically a very slow kind of chase. Giles is hiding in and out of these like classic cars. And then he has the foresight to hook electrodes up to one of the cars.
Like some kind of like I think a car battery or something.
Yeah, I mean that's what I assumed it would be. And somehow why don't you
Sorry about that,
Powell?
I had an alarm go off. Sorry.
Keep an eye on Yahel Velazquez. He's up to no good.
I apologize, listeners. But yeah, so like Powell's like in the like car like the car lot, like you said. Giles hooks up like battery jumper cables up to the car, and then Powell goes to like open the door. I don't even know why he was opening the door to this car, but as soon as he touches the car, like he just gets electrocuted, and it is hilarious.
He is fried to death, and yeah, it's pretty glorious. But again, like all of our protagonists are almost dead here. And so now we go back with Giles. He's in his like hideout with the Peep Show girl. He gives her some food, and she's all like, "Oh, am I gonna eat these bangers and mash without me hands?" And so
it's an apple, by the way, everyone. It's an apple.
Bangers and mash. So Giles unhooks her, and I love how she's like, "Oh, I promise I won't make a run for it." And they do a close-up of her crossing her fingers.
Yeah, very slowly crossing her fingers.
That's very nice of her to not want to lie to the serial killer, you know? Basically, she
like
Giles starts...
Yeah, go ahead.
Peep Show starts saying something about Christmas. Giles says he hates everything about it. Then Peep Show starts monologuing about how great Christmas is. It's like, "Oi, don't you remember back when you were a little boy, singing carols, drinking cider and eating biscuits?" And he's like, going into, I don't know what, special mode. He's like, "No, stop it."
Yeah, he's having like a mental breakdown.
Right. And Peep Show hacksaw Jim Duggins him with a board on the ground. Like, you think Giles would have been smart enough to make sure there, wasn't any weapons lying around, but I guess not. The man's insane.
Oh, he didn't see her cross her fingers, so he thought it was okay. Thought it was safe.
Yeah. He's a very trusting serial killer.
But then this scene is all, God, it's so stupid. Like, because then she tries to leave. She's like, "Oh, the door's locked," and she's like asking, "Where's the key, governor?" And
he's like, "I've got it right here."
Yeah, and then like, don't they cut then to like another scene now?
Well, I guess we're supposed to infer that she somehow got the key from him and got out of the room.
Because the next scene is like her like outside, like getting away, right?
Basically, yeah. So there's another foot chase. He chases her up some stairs to this sort of like balcony kind of area where she can't get out. Let's see. Oh, there's a little piece of info here. He says that she has to die on Christmas Day for some reason.
Yeah. Like she's supposed to be the last kill or something.
Right. And he corners her with the chains that he had bound her with earlier. She slips around him, and then he tries to lash her with the chains.
Yeah, like overhead.
Misses. Yeah. It misses and wraps like around this railing, she pulls the chain like through, like underneath the railing, and he's too stupid to let go. So the chain catapults him over the railing, and he possibly falls to his death.
Like he falls like, I don't know, what would you say, like 15 stories or something?
Oh yeah, it's
onto
huge.
concrete.
No one could survive that. And so, of course, in classic like bad horror movie fashion or cliche, however you want to call it, she goes down there to inspect the body. He grabs her throat.
He's alive,
then,
folks. Not
yes.
a scratch on him, no blood, nothing.
And then we get a hard cut to a flashback of young Giles. I guess young Harris is there too. He's being given gifts by Santa. It's basically his dad in a Santa suit. He gets a Swiss Army knife, and I love it. They show him like doing this with the knife, like already sowing
Like
the seeds.
twirling it, yeah.
Yeah, that he could be a serial killer, but I'm pretty sure I did the same thing when I was given a Swiss Army knife when I was his age.
Uh-oh.
But
Watch out, 1960s exploitation actors. Steve's
Caroline
coming for
Monroe has long since passed. But anyway,
you. I don't know if that's a confession or information you're giving me, but
shh, I've said too much.
It says here her murder was never solved, Steve.
The plot thickens, but sadly, this plot does not. So the mom tells him basically to go to bed so he can wake up and be a big, strong boy the next day. And I forgot to mention, so there are other people at this sort of Christmas party or whatever. They don't really say who they are. I guess you could say they're maybe neighbors or something.
Like friends, whatever, family.
Yeah. He opens the door to his room to find his dad in the Santa suit, like plowing some woman, like on the bed.
Yeah.
And then mom comes in and
having the sexual event.
Yes, the sexual event. That's what the Brits call it. So his mom comes in and sees what's going on, and then in a very poorly edited series of events, he like moves his hand to the camera, and somehow mom gets knocked down the stairs, and I guess it's implied that she's killed, basically.
Yeah, like Giles somehow, or no, not Giles, like the dad accidentally knocked the mom down the stairs. I was so confused as to who knocked the mom down the stairs.
Yeah, because, all right, they show dad doing this, then they show mom lying on the stairs like this, but then they cut to Giles standing at the top of the stairs holding his Swiss Army knife like this. So, I don't know, you can make up your own mind. This is one of those movies. Ooh, ambiguous ending. But it's not over yet. We're almost there. Thanks Santa, we're almost there. So, Harris then wakes up.
Inspector
and I don't know
Harris.
and I don't know about you, but I was like, damn, are they going for it was all a dream? But anyway, he finally opens the gift that was given to him at the beginning of the film by the bike messenger, or whatever you want to call him, that his own brother, the psychopath, sent him. And I was like, oh boy, what's it going to be? Is it going to be like his, wife's head in a box, a la Seven, or I don't know. What did you think was going to be in the box?
I really didn't know at this point. Maybe like a bloody Santa hat or something.
The Santa's blood sausage from before.
I was hoping he'd open it up and there'd be a coherent plot, but
yeah, that would have been nice. But no, it makes absolutely no sense. First, it's like a music box, but instead of a ballerina in there twirling, it is a Santa Claus. Which, I mean, has that ever been a thing? Like, who would want that? But anyway, he sets the box down and, very Britishly just sort of sits and, I don't know, I assume he had a drink and was like sipping it. And then out of nowhere, the box explodes. End of movie.
The box
roll
explodes.
Credits.
The inspector like falls out of his chair very slowly. It's all in slow motion. And I guess he was killed.
I mean, it was an explosion, but how much like C4 or dynamite or whatever they had back then could you put in that tiny box?
I mean, it wasn't like that big of an explosion though, because the guy was in the same room as the explosion, and it wasn't like composited. They wouldn't have been able to afford that anyways, and he just kind of like gently like, falls out of his chair. I don't know. I guess Giles got the last laugh.
Yeah. So the question here is like, is the Peep Show girl dead? Like, so Giles
Yes.
won in the end?
Giles
He beat
won,
everyone?
I think, is the thing. By the way, Creative KV wrote that this is the most attention this movie's gotten since someone pushed another movie over it in the bargain bin decades ago.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because, yeah, I was like, man, I haven't seen a lot of people talking about that. But in one of the Facebook groups that I'm in that discusses movies like this, someone was like, hey, could somebody recommend me like a sleazy horror Christmas movie, kind of like Don't Open Till Christmas? And I'm like, wow, so I guess someone else has watched this. But anyway, are you ready to render your verdict on Don't Open
Yes,
Till
let's do
Christmas?
it.
Remembered or obliterated? That is the question.
All right. I'm almost out of steam here. So, Mr. Velazquez, do you think Don't Open Till Christmas should have never been opened? Or should it be opened and given to the world with joy and goodwill toward men?
There are like three kind of fun kills, like the car electrocution kill, the castration kill, and the grill kill. But unfortunately
kill.
for me, it is not enough to make up for how slow this less than 90-minute movie feels, the bad editing. If they would have like leaned into it being campy, because the movie's like played for serious, like deadly serious.
Oh, yeah. Britishly serious.
Yes. If it would have been played up for camp, it could have been good, at least in a so bad it's good kind of way. But nah, for me, it's a obliterate.
Yeah, I feel like this movie definitely deserves a remake. I feel like it could be a fun one if you had actual people over IRL, like, you're passing around the holiday spirits, if you will. You could probably have a good time, like, making fun of it. But watching it alone and trying to find like meaning and all the meaninglessness of the mini cuts and horrible edits and stuff is makes for a pretty tough watch. I would almost say it might deserve a stalemate, but nah, brah. This movie deserves to be obliterated, and so it shall be. Here we go.
The heathens have spoken. You are obliterated.
All right.
I do want to say that Smoke Monster here in the live chat, excuse me, he commented that, it's bad when a blood sausage urinal castration can't even save it.
That's true. Yeah, usually, if you put if you put crotch trauma in a movie, people talk about it for a long time. What does everyone know RoboCop for? Because he shot a man in the crotch.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just like, I don't know. I feel like they probably really had to dig to unearth this one. I think a Vinegar Syndrome has like a DVD or Blu-ray of it. If you're into physical media. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think there's any reason to go out of your way to watch this one. Like I said, unless you really want to see what your drunken friends think about it. But
Yeah.
I think we had a pretty good time with it here, though. What do you think?
I had a better time talking about it than watching it, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And the last thing I want to mention in the chat is that Sasquatch in time, the Quatch, if you will.
Quatch.
He said that in the chat that it probably makes its rounds in the mall Santa's ring.
Oh, man. That would be so... Man, that's a good idea. Well, right now, Blade is too afraid to talk to Santa. But if he'll go up to one year, I'm going to be like, hey, you ever seen that Don't Open Till Christmas? And see what kind of reaction I get.
Yeah.
Also, I meant to tell you, they had the Hollywood Christmas parade as they do every year, and allegedly Dean Cain was going to be in it. And I was going to film myself yelling to him, "I loved you," and Andy the Talking Hedgehog, to see what kind of reaction I would get. But for some reason, he wasn't there. He dicked out.
Well, that's okay, Steve. I think you're better off.
I want to know.
He probably doesn't even remember the movie.
He was just coked out of his mind on that.
Yeah, more like Quaalude did out of his mind. But yeah, that was Don't Open Till Christmas. Don't open it ever.
Yes, well, let us know if you think otherwise in the comments. And thank you to everyone who shows up live or have been showing up the past couple of weeks. It's made for some really fun shows. This is most likely going to be the last live stream of the year. We've got some pre-recorded episodes to come up so we can just relax during the Christmas holiday and go around murder some Santas. You know what I'm saying, Yahel? You know what I'm saying?
No.
Thanks for playing along. I'm slowly turning into Dick Dietrich from Nightstand.
From what?
Yeah, Dick Nightstand. You know, Timothy Stack, the guy who played, from Son of the Beach, who was also on Nightstand. Remember?
Nightstand.
It's that
like a TV show?
Yeah, it's where they made fun of Jerry Springer. You don't remember?
Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry. It's a
deep cut. Now, it's a deep reference.
That we should cover that one.
Oh, I think it's been on the list for a long time, but yeah. But of course, there'll be plenty more obscure episodes and live streams coming in 2024. I am actually going to be on the East Coast soon, so I'm hoping that maybe Yahel and I can do an in-real IRL live stream, but I don't want to make any promises. Anyway, I think we're done here, Yahel. What do you think?
Let's get out of here. Everybody have a happy holiday, happy New Year, and stay safe.
All right, yep, and we'll see you next Sunday in a pre-recorded episode as we continue to unearth more obscure media only on Obscurity Now. See you next time.
You've been enjoying Obscurity Now, a podcast that's recorded live to tape and streamed to Twitch and YouTube. Subscribe so you never miss an episode or hilarious quip. Take us with you by following the download links provided in the show notes to wherever you get podcasts. And take notice of our various social media links. If that's what you're into, I'm not here to judge. And make sure you join us live next week at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific as we continue to discuss more obscure media only on Obscurity Now.